HFY Chronicles, Terran Contact Chapter 53. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Eclipse Horizon was a masterpiece of Terran engineering. It floated like a jewel among the stars, its crystalline walls shimmering with the reflected light of distant galaxies. Inside, representatives from both the Terran Confederation and the Zalthar Dominion were seated across a circular table of polished onyx. It was the first formal meeting between the two powers, a moment heavy with potential. Captain Lyra Vance adjusted her dress uniform, her expression calm but her mind sharp as steel. She was the appointed envoy of humanity for this historic event, chosen for her tactical brilliance and ability to read a room with uncanny precision. Beside her, the AI companion Athena, manifested as a subtle holographic bracelet on her wrist, whispered real-time updates into her ear. The Zalthar delegation has an 87% likelihood of attempting psychological dominance tactics. Their leader, HFY Chronicles, is particularly fond of exploiting perceived weaknesses, Athena advised. Noted, Lyra muttered under her breath, her eyes locking onto the imposing figure entering the chamber. Overseer Thrall was a towering figure, his armored carapace gleaming in shades of gold and black. He moved with the deliberate grace of a predator, his multifaceted eyes scanning the room. Behind him trailed his aides, smaller, more fragile-looking Zalthar, their chitin duller, their postures submissive. Terran Captain Lyra Vance, Thrall rumbled, his voice resonating like thunder. It is intriguing that your kind dares to negotiate rather than submit. The galaxy is no stranger to species who overestimate their importance. Lyra smiled coolly, standing as she extended a hand in the human gesture of greeting. Thrall ignored it, instead looming closer, his mandibles clicking faintly, a subtle challenge. HFY Chronicles, Lyra replied evenly, humanity doesn't submit. We negotiate as equals or not at all. Surely, a species as advanced as yours recognizes the value of mutual growth. The chamber fell silent as the Zalthar aides glanced nervously at their leader. For a moment, Thrall said nothing, then leaned back slightly, his mandibles retracting. Bold words, he said finally. We shall see if they are matched by actions. The negotiations began, and it was immediately clear that the Zalthar had no intention of playing fair. They presented demands cloaked as compromises and attempted to dominate the conversation with thinly veiled threats about their military superiority. But Lyra was unflinching. She countered each point with precision, refusing to cede any ground that would put humanity at a disadvantage. At one particularly tense moment, Thrall leaned forward, his multifaceted eyes glinting with menace. Do you truly believe your species can stand against the might of the Dominion? We have assimilated hundreds of worlds, crushed civilizations older than your sun. Humanity's stubbornness is admirable, but ultimately futile. Lyra's smile widened slightly. Funny, that's exactly what the Horgoths said before we sent them fleeing to the edge of the galaxy. Oh, and the GYRVNTH? They learned about mutual respect after we dismantled their blockade on Epsilon Triad. So forgive me if I'm not impressed by the Dominion's reputation. Actions speak louder than boasts, Overseer. The chamber grew colder, the tension palpable. Thrall's aides looked panicked now, their antennae twitching nervously. For a brief moment, Lyra thought Thrall might lash out, but then the Overseer did something unexpected. He laughed. The sound was alien and guttural but carried a surprising warmth. Perhaps there is more to humanity than meets the eye, he said, his tone shifting from disdain to reluctant respect. You speak with the conviction of a warrior, Captain. Perhaps the Dominion will not crush your species today. Lyra inclined her head, her victory subtle but unmistakable. The rest of the negotiations continued in a more balanced fashion, with concessions made on both sides. By the time the meeting concluded, humanity had secured an agreement for peaceful coexistence and mutual trade, a significant step forward in their quest to carve out a place among the stars. As Lyra returned to the Eclipse Horizon's bridge, she allowed herself a small smile. Humanity's journey among the stars was only beginning, and every encounter, every negotiation, was another chapter in their story. Today, they had proved that humanity wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Athena, Lyra said as she gazed out at the endless void of space, log this as a win. Already done, Captain, Athena replied. HFY indeed. HFY Chronicles, Terran Contact Chapter 54. Captain Lyra Vance barely had a moment to savor the victory before the bridge of the Eclipse Horizon came alive with activity. The holographic display at the center of the command deck projected an urgent notification. An unidentified signal was rapidly approaching their position. The timing couldn't have been worse. Report, Lyra commanded, stepping into the center of the bridge. The crew snapped to attention, their fingers dancing over consoles. Lieutenant Saha, the ship's tactical officer, glanced up from his station. Unidentified vessel closing in. Captain, configuration doesn't match Zalthar Dominion or any known species. They're not responding to hails. Could it be pirates? Asked Commander Reeve. The ship's first officer. Lyra shook her head. Unlikely. Pirates wouldn't dare operate this deep into Zalthar space. Bring us to yellow alert. I want shields up and weapons systems online. Athena. Start a deep scan of that ship. The AI's voice responded promptly. Initiating scan. Vessel's composition is unusual. Hull material is a composite unknown to Terran or Dominion databases. It appears heavily reinforced, yet it has minimal energy signatures, likely running dark to mask its presence. Lyra's instincts flared. This was no coincidence. The timing, the approach, the lack of response, all pointed to one conclusion: this ship had been waiting for them. Maintain visual, she ordered. If they make any sudden moves, I want us ready. The view screen zoomed in on the approaching ship. It was a dark, menacing craft. Its design angular and predatory. Small maneuvering thrusters flared as it closed the distance, and for a brief moment, it seemed content to hold its position just beyond the Eclipse Horizon's weapons range. Then it spoke. A deep, guttural voice echoed through the comms. Terran vessel, you have interfered with the natural order. The Zalthar are ours to dominate. You have no place in this sector. Lyra narrowed her eyes. Identify yourself. The voice chuckled coldly. We are the Dragger, witnesses of evolution, enforcers of balance. Humanity's meddling disrupts the grand design, and for that, you will be purged. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. The Dragger were a name only whispered in the deepest intelligence circles, a myth, a shadowy force rumored to manipulate galactic civilizations for reasons no one fully understood. Dragger, Lyra said evenly, her tone as calm as it was dangerous. If you think humanity will back down because of vague threats, you've grossly underestimated us. The response was immediate. The Dragger ship powered up its weapons, its hull glowing with a faint crimson light. Multiple energy signatures flared to life, and the ship began to charge forward. Red alert, Lyra barked. All hands, battle stations, helm, evasive maneuvers. The Eclipse Horizon sprang into action. The sleek Terran warship rolled to the side as plasma bolts screamed past, narrowly missing its aft engines. Lyra gripped the railing tightly, her sharp gaze fixed on the tactical display. Return fire, she ordered. The ship's forward cannons erupted, sending a barrage of kinetic slugs toward the Dragger vessel. The enemy ship's hull shimmered as a barrier absorbed the impact. It retaliated with a volley of energy pulses that rattled the Eclipse Horizon, despite its advanced shielding. They've got some kind of adaptive shielding, Lieutenant Saren reported. Our weapons are barely making a dent. Lyra's mind raced. The Dragger were clearly technologically superior, but Terrans had always thrived on ingenuity. Saren, focus fire on their weapons systems. Reeve, launch a spread of EMP torpedoes, target their propulsion. Let's see how adaptive they are when they can't move. The crew sprang into action. The Eclipse Horizon danced through the battlefield, dodging incoming fire while unleashing a carefully coordinated attack. EMP torpedoes streaked toward the Dragger ship, detonating in bursts of blue energy. The enemy vessel shuddered, its forward thrusters flickering. Direct hit, Reeve called out. Their propulsion is compromised. Good, Lyra said. Keep the pressure on, don't let them recover. As the Terran ship pressed its advantage, the Dragger vessel began to falter. Its weapons fire became erratic, and its shielding flickered under the sustained barrage. Finally, the enemy ship powered down its weapons and emitted a signal, a surrender. Captain, Athena said, the Dragger vessel is transmitting a message. They request parley. Lyra folded her arms. Open a channel. The guttural voice returned, strained but still defiant. You are formidable, Terrans, perhaps more than we anticipated. This encounter will not be forgotten. You're right about that, Lyra replied coolly. Now retreat to whatever shadow you crawled out of, and tell whoever sent you that humanity isn't going anywhere. The Dragger ship hesitated, then turned and limped away into the void. As the Eclipse Horizon returned to its patrol, the bridge crew exhaled a collective sigh of relief, but Lyra remained vigilant. The Dragger would undoubtedly return, and next time, they might not be so easily outmaneuvered. Athena, she said quietly, analyze everything we have on the Dragger. I want to know their strengths, their weaknesses, and their motives. If they think we're a disruption, they're going to learn just how disruptive humanity can be. The AI's voice was calm and confident. Understood, Captain. Analysis underway. Lyra gazed out at the stars. The galaxy had no shortage of threats, but humanity had faced them before and thrived. Whatever the Dragger's plans, they'd soon learn the same lesson as so many others. Humans didn't just survive, they excelled. HFY Chronicles, Terran Contact Chapter 55. The crew of the Eclipse Horizon settled into an uneasy calm as the Dragger vessel disappeared into the vast emptiness of space. The tension in the air lingered, however, like a storm on the horizon. Captain Lyra Vance had already begun planning for the next encounter. But her thoughts were interrupted by an incoming priority transmission. "Captain, it's from Terran High Command," said Commander Reeve, glancing at his console. "Secure channel. Patch it through to my ready room," Lyra ordered. She turned to the bridge crew. "Saren, you have the con. Maintain red alert until further notice." She strode to her ready room, the door hissing shut behind her. The holographic display on her desk flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Admiral Elias Tarkin, the head of the Terran Confederation's deep space operations. "Captain Vance," Tarkin began, his voice carrying the weight of urgency, "we've been monitoring your encounter with the Dragger. Your performance was exemplary, but there's a complication." "Understood, Admiral," Lyra replied, sitting down. "What's the situation?" Tarkin's image shifted to show a star map. A blinking red dot marked a distant system on the edge of uncharted space. "We've detected unusual subspace activity in the Dragger's likely retreat vector. Our analysts believe it could be a staging area, a forward base." Lyra frowned. "A Dragger base this close to Zalthar territory? That would explain their interest in our negotiations." "Precisely," Tarkin said. "We can't afford to let them establish a foothold. Your orders are to investigate the system, determine the extent of their presence, and, if feasible, neutralize the threat." Lyra's jaw tightened. "Understood, sir. We'll depart immediately." "One more thing," Tarkin added. "You won't be going alone. We're dispatching the Resolute, a heavy frigate, to assist you. Captain Yelena Dre will be your counterpart." Lyra's brow furrowed slightly. Dre had a reputation for being aggressive to the point of recklessness, a stark contrast to Lyra's calculated approach. Still, orders were orders. "Acknowledged. We'll rendezvous with the Resolute en route." "Good luck, Captain," Tarkin said before the transmission ended. Lyra leaned back in her chair, her mind already racing through possibilities. The Dragger were unlike any foe humanity had faced, a shadowy, enigmatic force with motives shrouded in mystery. But if they thought humanity would back down, they were sorely mistaken. The eclipse horizon jumped to FTL, the stars stretching into brilliant streaks of light. Within hours, they rendezvoused with the Resolute, a formidable ship bristling with weaponry. The two captains met via holographic link, their images projected in each other's briefing rooms. "Captain Vance," Yelena Dre said, her voice carrying an edge of impatience. "Glad to have you along for the ride. Let's make this quick and clean." Lyra nodded. "Efficiency is the goal, Captain Dre, but we can't underestimate the Dragger. We'll need a coordinated approach." "Agreed," Dre said, though her tone suggested she had her own ideas. "My ship will take point. The Resolute can handle anything they throw at us." Lyra resisted the urge to sigh. "Understood. We'll provide support and focus on intel gathering. Let's make sure we're aligned before we act." The meeting ended, and the two ships entered the system marked on the star map. It was an unremarkable cluster of barren planets and asteroid belts, but the unusual subspace signatures quickly confirmed their suspicions. Hidden among the asteroids was a massive Dragger structure, part station, part shipyard, its design bristling with alien menace. "Scans show multiple energy signatures," Lieutenant Saren reported. "Looks like they've got at least 3 capital ships docked, plus defensive platforms." "Too much firepower for a head-on assault," Lyra muttered. "Suggestions?" Reeve leaned forward. "We could deploy stealth drones to map their defenses. If we can find a weakness, we might disable key systems and even the odds." "Do it," Lyra ordered, "and patch this into the Resolute. They'll need the intel." The drones slipped into the field undetected, their sensors painting a detailed picture of the Dragger base. As the data came in, Lyra spotted an opportunity. "Saren, highlight that central hub," she said, pointing to a pulsating core on the holographic display. "That looks like their primary power source. If we can overload it." A sharp beep interrupted her, the comms crackled, and Yelena Dre's voice came through. "Vance, the Resolute is moving in. No point waiting, let's take them out now." Lyra's heart sank. "Dre, hold position, we're not ready for a full assault." But it was too late. The Resolute surged forward, its weapons blazing. The Dragger base responded instantly, launching waves of fighters and activating its defensive platforms. The Resolute took heavy fire but pressed on, its cannons tearing through enemy shields. Lyra gritted her teeth. "Reeve, bring us in. Cover the Resolute before they get themselves destroyed." The Eclipse Horizon darted into the fray, its precise attacks targeting the Dragger fighters. The battle was chaotic, the enemy's superior numbers threatening to overwhelm both ships, but Lyra's crew worked with surgical precision, exploiting every gap in the Dragger's defenses. "Captain," Athena said, "the central hub is exposed. We have a 73% chance of destabilizing the base if we strike now." Lyra didn't hesitate. "Saren, target the hub, fire everything we've got." The Eclipse Horizon unleashed a devastating salvo, its torpedoes streaking toward the Dragger core. The impact was immediate, explosions rippled through the structure, and the base began to collapse in on itself. The enemy ships scrambled to retreat, their coordination shattered. As the dust settled, the Resolute limped back to formation, its hull scorched but intact. Dre's voice crackled through the comms, sounding grudgingly impressed. "Nice work, Vance, guess I owe you one." Lyra allowed herself a small smile. "Next time, Captain Dre, let's try a little patience." The two ships set course back to Terran space, leaving behind a shattered dragger outpost, but Lyra knew this was only the beginning. The dragger wouldn't take this defeat lightly, and humanity had just placed itself squarely in their crosshairs.